this sector a sense of place. A friend in Waterloo referred to it as building an address for the tribe. Everyone has a sense of where they are and what they're a part of. And so to build that sense of brand, that sense of dynamism about what we have going in Southeast New Brunswick. And ultimately, the key metric is the number of companies that we have. We'll be tracking, obviously, all of those metrics going forward. So what we do at a high level, cluster development, building critical mass, working with the strategic partners, making those connections between and among the key players to support the growth of our companies. Attraction and retention of talent. Ask Tammy here how important that is to any tech company, big or small. It's a key challenge for all of our companies, finding their way to enough of the people with the right skills. And as you see in a few minutes, that's why it's important to us to have close relationships with the community college system and our other post-secondary partners. Venture services to support primarily early stage and stage 2 firms with business strategy, venture capital and funding strategies, one-on-one mentoring, coaching, and advisory services. We will work with startup companies, obviously, but it's a fairly busy space. The enterprise network in New Brunswick works with startups. Our friends at Propel ICT work with startups. So we'll look for opportunities to collaborate and coordinate our efforts with organizations like those. One of the things we feel really strongly about is getting to our young people, and this is going beyond the college system and into our school system, because what we found is there's not a great awareness as kids come through middle school and into high school about the opportunities in these sectors in the region. And so we've already started discussions with the school districts in Southeast New Brunswick, District 1, 2, and some of the others to look for opportunities for Tech Southeast and our member companies to get into the schools and start getting the message out there while the kids are doing their math and science and entrepreneurship courses and so on. So we can get some early opportunities to create some interest and some buzz in the school system. And obviously we're going to be working very closely with the community colleges and the universities. Networking and professional development, this is really about building the tech community and a sense of community. So we're doing a number of things in relation to this. Just yesterday we held our first workshop on intellectual property issues with a national firm that specializes in that domain, and about 30 members, 30 representatives from member companies attending yesterday. On an ongoing basis, we'll be putting on workshops and seminars with specific topics of interest to our member companies. And we want them to be feeding us ideas for the kinds of subject they want us to cover in that series. We're also in the process now of launching our first of what we call peer-to-peer groups, which are opportunities for typically smaller groups, 8 to 15, probably not much bigger than that, but people who work in a common domain, a common functional space. So, for example, Dale Ritchie is here from Mackenzie College in Pitch Mobile. We're talking to Dale and Gene and some of the folks in the mobile gaming space about having a peer-to-peer group for that group. But CEOs, peer-to-peer group, financial officers, chief information officers, technology user groups. There's a variety of groups. We're hoping to start about 5 this year. Our friends, just to show you the potential of it, our friends in Waterloo Communitech, a little bigger, they've got 600 companies. They've now got 23 peer-to-peer groups up and running. But it's all part of building a sense of community and giving the people in those companies a chance to take a leadership role, provide their input, because we will benefit from the dialogue and the work and the discussion that happens in those groups. It'll inform our advocacy work. It'll give us ideas for our eventing, for our workshops and seminars and conferences and so on. Obviously, we want to focus on building and celebrating a culture of innovation, entrepreneurship, and risk-taking. And so we'll be doing a variety of things through our website, through our events, through our communications activity to get the story out, to help build the buzz, again, create more interest and enthusiasm of what's happening in the tech sector. Okay, this is our founding board of directors. For those of you who may not be familiar with these people, our founding chairman, John Manship, was of course the founder of Spelo, and last week we celebrated the 20th anniversary of what is New Brunswick's single biggest, most successful homegrown tech company. Jock English, president and CEO of a company called Telesis Aviation Systems out of Shediac. They do reservation and related systems, management systems for airlines around the world. And it's hard to get a hold of Jock. This today he's in Syria, and 2 days ago he was in Germany. Their companies are all over the place. A great story. Bob Ryback is the founder of White Hill Technologies. He's now specializing in gaming consulting. Really bright mind. Roger Lett, you may be familiar with the head of the Atlantic Cancer Research Institute. Mitch Manuel of VIMSOC, Michelle Corinci from ALC, Robin Drummond, CP of Spilo. We dropped the GTEC now, is it just Spilo again?
Yeah, just Spilo.
Excellent. Paul Gunn, and again, you see a bit of the health life sciences side coming in here because we have these two cluster areas to work with. CCM BDF and NBCC Moncton are our two founding college partners, and both with them and with University of Moncton and Mount Allison, we're going to rotate the voting seat on the board because we found ourselves getting weighed down by a really big board. So Claude Allard from CCMB is a voting member this year. NBCC Moncton next year, Steve McClatchy from Mount Allison, and then next year we someone from UDAM. Non-voting members ex officio, that's not a big issue for you guys. But anyway, a group of very talented, experienced people, and many of whom, as I mentioned, have been with us since we started this journey 5 years ago. So it tells you something about the faith and the belief and the need that these people felt in being successful putting this organization in place. So for our member companies, we offer workshops, seminars, access to our business and mentoring services. Again, I mentioned it's a membership-based company, so we have a fee structure based on the size of a company. So for a small company, 5 people or less, $250 a year. You're a member of Tech Southeast, you can have access to all of our stuff, our workshops, our seminars, and it's not just one person. You got 2 or 3 or more in your company who you think would benefit from that, you can come take it in. One-on-one mentoring and advisory services. We're putting in place a group of experienced leaders from the tech community, people like John and Jock and some of the others from the board and others from our membership who will make themselves available to provide one-on-one mentoring support to our member companies. Obviously, networking with the best and brightest across the industry, being part of our peer-to-peer groups, and coming to our conferences and events and so on. Partnerships. This is all about going back to what we saw in Oulu and working together. A core strategy for us in getting to that kind of local collaboration and coordination was putting in place partnership agreements with just about everyone you see here on this page. And we're going to add one more here. NBCC Miramichi is going to be added to this slide before the day is out. But with each one of the post-secondary institutions, the Cancer Research Institute, the 5 area municipalities in the Southeast, we have put in place bilateral agreements which lay out basic opportunities and interests and assets that line up with the needs and the opportunities of our tech sector. And that provides a really strong platform going forward for collaborative efforts to support the growth of those companies, those entrepreneurs. As I mentioned, we're collaborating with Jeff and his team at Propel, BioAtlantech, in the Health Life Sciences Biospace are on board as a member. Magma, Multicultural Association of Greater Moncton, we have a partnership with them because we think we can work with them and help them in their efforts not only to provide training, IT training, for example, to immigrants coming in, but also to help them help the province target the immigration stream so perhaps we can do a better job bringing in immigrants that companies like Spilo and others are looking for when it comes to skilled individuals. The Brunswick Innovation Foundation, you may be familiar with, doing some interesting work investing in technology-based companies. Business Development Bank of Canada, NRC. We have a memorandum of understanding with the Institute for Information Technology, so we can tap into what's going on in there. One thing's really cool, it may come as a surprise to you, but they can't really go out on the street and talk much about what's going on in their labs and some of the cool research that they're doing, but we can do that for them so we can help get the word out and tell some of those interesting stories about some of the stuff that their scientists and researchers are working on. But obviously we want to leverage some of that activity to support our companies. NRC IRAP, we have a network member agreement with IRAP and our friend Johannes, who's based right here in Miramichi. The province came on board with 3 years of funding, hugely important. We couldn't have pressed the go button without the province coming on board, and then some of the others that we're working with. This is a glimpse at some of the early members who have signed up and for the gaming and Animation folks, you'll see some familiar names like OG and Spelo, Atlantic Lottery, Canada Gaming Service, and Mackenzie College, and some of those companies, and then some of the others that have come on board. So the support is, we're up to about 30 members right now, and we're just now really formally starting the membership drive because we needed to get through the development of our programs and our launch, which was just last week. I mentioned the bilateral agreement, so it identifies priorities, areas of mutual interest, which helps drive that collaboration of all the partners. And I mentioned the IREP agreement and NRC. Associate organizations. The other thing we're doing, and this has been helpful to us as we've sort of put the spit and polish on our mentoring and advisory program, for example, the policies and guidelines. 5 minutes, right on track. But it also gives us a network of people we can tap into, resources we can tap into, whether it relates to mentoring or bringing in speakers and specialists for some of our events and so on. And so these are just some of them. I mentioned Innovation America at the outset. Communitech and Waterloo Tech Alliance in London, Ontario, two enabling organizations like us. They've been at it a little longer, they're a little bigger, but we're doing the same stuff. And it's really our peer-to-peer program. We basically, Tech Alliance, we stole their peer-to-peer manual and crossed out Tech Alliance and wrote in Tech Southeast because it's all the same stuff. It's the same principles. And they've been just so generous and so supportive. And it's what they do, because we're not in competition with each other. We're all have the same broad objective, helping young entrepreneurs, helping tech companies grow and succeed. Some of the others, of course, we keep the lines open with our friends in Oulu and the IC2 Institute. We are doing some work with the Martians. One of the things that they do at Mars, they do volunteer or mentoring and advisory services. Over half right now is on a volunteer basis. I'm poor, I can't afford to pay guys to come in and do that. So that volunteer mentoring and advisory stuff is important to us. So we're able to go to school on their approach and their policies and procedures and adopt them. So that's been very helpful. So timely events, learning opportunities geared toward the needs of our members. In the workshop yesterday, the last question was, give us your ideas for subjects you'd like to see in future seminars and workshops. And we've got a list of about a dozen interesting ideas. We're going to start looking at it from that. Relevant advice, support, and education to our companies, to our entrepreneurs, from our mentors, from our advisors, and other resources as necessary. Collaborating with our strategic